looking good. Coming out. All right. Welcome back to our other office. Yeah. Okay, I see 3 tabs. Good. Okay, safer handles are good. Hey, let me get a local.
Pure white light streams out from behind Earth. I am engulfed in colorless, radiant light that seems to be emanating out of cold emptiness and traveling through cold nothingness. The light streams over and around me, and a hint of peaceful serenity awakens inside me. Beyond my view of the sparkling ISS, a rocky coastline on an unrecognized continent drifts into view. Sunlight bathing newly awakened snow-capped mountains into the glory of a new day. I imagine there are people down there somewhere, just starting their day, who are also witnesses to this exquisite beauty from a different but no less compelling perspective. I wish we could share notes. The complex immensity of the ISS against the backdrop of our indescribably beautiful Earth 240 miles below thrusts me into a singularity. The entire universe peels away the blanket of danger, the thoughts of upcoming tasks, the feelings of fatigue, the excitement of being in space are all displaced by a singular vision of beauty. The truth that is blatantly apparent from this vantage point is that every living thing on the planet and the planet itself are inexplicably interconnected and interdependent. What's obvious from this vantage point of physical detachment from Earth is that we are not from Earth. We are of Earth. All of us. Every living creature. Hey everybody, welcome to this live stream event. I'm really excited. We are not only celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the last space shuttle based spacewalk, which 10 years ago today, Mike Fossum and I conducted. We're also celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the closing of a chapter in our nation's space program, the closing of one chapter and the opening up of another one that we right now are seeing come to fruition, and it's really exciting. I want to remind everybody that you're a part of this discussion. This is a discussion between us all, and you know, I had hoped that my spacewalk partner Mike Fossum was going to be on this live stream with me. Unfortunately, he's at sea right now, and he doesn't have the bandwidth to the internet bandwidth to come into this. You know, he's at sea because not only is he the vice president of Texas A&M University, the chief operating officer of Texas A&M Galveston, but he's also the superintendent of the Texas A&M Maritime Academy and an admiral now. Even though he was in the Air Force. And so he makes me feel like a little bit of a slacker. But since you won't be listening to him and I jabbering back and forth, I'm going to encourage everybody to submit your questions and submit your comments in the comment section below, and we'll try and get to them all. I see some comments coming in now. Welcome everybody who's joining in. And so, like I said, we're celebrating this opening of a new chapter, the closing of one chapter and the opening of another chapter. And the intro video that you saw contained clips from that last spacewalk that we were on. And it's a narration from my new book, Floating in Darkness, which coincidentally, not so much, launches today. So it's available starting today. So that's also pretty exciting. So I want to show a video, and I'll talk through the video as it goes, because I think this video really highlights what I mean by the closing of a chapter and the opening of a new chapter. And it also set up a competition that we kind of refer to as a big game of capture the flag. And what it was is when, and you'll see this video, is when STS-135, the last mission of Space Shuttle Atlantis and the last mission of any space shuttle, was getting ready to undock from the space station for the last time. We all gathered right in front of the hatch that led to Atlantis. And STS-135 Atlantis commander Chris Ferguson, Fergie, made a little speech about a flag that they carried up on Atlantis. And this was a special flag because it was flown on STS-1, the first space shuttle, and it was flown on STS-135, the last space shuttle. And it has a bigger significance than that. But the Capture the Flag competition that was set up, unbeknownst at the time, was set up between two people that were in this video, that are in this video. And one of those people in this video did capture this flag. And so with that, let's watch this video.
We have that flag, and that flag is significant not only because we brought it up on this flight, but because it also flew on STS-1. We can reach behind you, Sasha. This flag represents not just a symbol of our national pride and honor, but in this particular case, it represents a goal. This flag also will be flown prominently here by the forward hatch of No. 2 to be returned to Earth once again by an astronaut that launches on a U.S. vehicle, hopefully in just a few years. Ron, I'd like to turn this flag over to you for you to display on the No. 2 forward hatch.
Well, thanks, Ferg. You know, we're looking for a place to hang this flag that flew on STS-1 and STS-135, and you know, when we were thinking about it, we thought the Harmony module would be the perfect place. You know, on our right, we've got the Japanese laboratory. On our left, we have the European laboratory. In front of us, we've got the hatch that leads to the U.S. laboratory, the Russian segment, and the rest of the space station. And above us and below us are hatches where visiting spacecraft can bring cargo. But behind us, going through that hatch right there, right now, that's the hatch that leads to Atlantis. And 35 space shuttles have docked to that mating adapter that's attached just beyond that hatch right there. And you know, during the course of the International Space Station construction, all those space shuttles that docked there left the legacy of this incredible orbiting research facility that not only is, you know, going to be a stepping stone to the rest of the exploration of the rest of the solar system. It's also really improving life on our planet, and so we thought it was a very fitting place to put that. And as we put this flag on the hatch that leads to Atlantis right now, and when we close that hatch, when these guys go by it, we're closing a chapter in the history of our nation. But in the future, when another spacecraft docks to that hatch, and with crew members on board, and we open that hatch, we are going to be opening a new era and raising the flag on a new era of exploration beyond low Earth orbit. So it's a great honor to do that, and it's a great place for us to put it.
Thanks, Ron. And when this flag returns again someday to Earth by astronauts that came up on an American spacecraft, its journey will not end there. Its journey will continue. It will also, on the heavy lift vehicle that the United States is currently working on, it will leave low Earth orbit once again, perhaps to a lunar destination, perhaps to Mars. I certainly speak on behalf of the STS-135 crew and on behalf of Expedition 28 that it is our honor to have brought this flag here and to prominently display it.
So pretty significant event. We've got a question from Mason. So Ron, has the flag accrued any more history in the last 10 years? Well, yes, it has. So the two people that who are in that video that I mentioned before that set up the Capture the Flag competition were Fergie, Chris Ferguson, the commander of STS-135, and the pilot of STS-135, Doug Hurley, who is also an astronaut classmate of mine and a test pilot school classmate of mine. And so I think most of you who are tuning in realize that Doug Hurley was the commander of the SpaceX mission that went to the space station, and Fergie was going to fly and probably will still fly the Boeing mission to the International Space Station. So this signified the opening. When we opened that hatch and raised the flag, we opened up a new chapter. And I think some of the amazing things that are going to happen in this new chapter is we are going to hopefully set up a transportation infrastructure between the Earth and our closest neighbor, the Moon, which will enable a permanent human settlement on the Moon. Right now, we've had permanent human inhabitants of space for the last 21 years almost on the International Space Station, and we're going to keep that going and extend it out to the Moon and to beyond. Please keep your comments coming. And what I want to play a little more of this video, because in that video there are astronauts from 3 different nations. And I think the International Space Station itself and certainly International Space Station Partnership is an incredibly shining example of international cooperation. It shows what we as a species can do when we set aside our differences and do amazing things. And I think part of what enabled us to do that in the International Space Station program is we decided that we were going to build a partnership on a foundation of awe and wonder, on a foundation of building something amazing, because motivation and action is spurred by primarily 2 main forces, either fear or awe and wonder and wonderment and trying to see what's over the next hill and exploration and all those wonderful things. Both are very, very powerful in motivating action in the short term. But fear only motivates action in the short term. But awe and wonder not only motivates it for the short term, but in the long term. And so this really dawned on me during one of my spacewalks, where at one point I was about 100 feet above the space station, looking down at this incredible orbiting facility against the backdrop of our just indescribably beautiful planet, 240 miles below. And the sheer beauty of that scene took my breath away. But I think more important than the beauty of that scene was the incredible example of international cooperation that the International Space Station represents. And what dawned on me there as I hovered above the space station, about 100 feet above it, was the fact that 15 nations built the space station. And as we all know, some of these nations weren't always the best of friends. Some were on opposite sides of the Cold War, opposite sides of the space race. Some of these nations fought wars against each other where we purposely targeted each other's civilians in an effort to break each other's will. But in spite of all of that, we found a way to use awe and wonder and build this incredible orbiting research facility in space. As I hovered up there, I wondered, what would the world look like? How many fewer problems and challenges would we face if we could figure out how to have that same level of cooperation, that same level of collaboration, and bring it down to the Earth's surface? So I want to play the rest of this video. It's not that much longer, but I want you to get the sense as you watch this that there's not the Russian crew and the American crew and the Japanese crew up there. There's just the crew. And we are working together seamlessly, and not just the crew in space, but the crew in all the mission control rooms scattered all around the world. We are working together to do this amazing thing in space seamlessly. And what we primarily do, one of our main objectives on our missions is to protect and maintain the life support systems of the space station. And we do that together as an integrated crew, both on board and through the mission control rooms around the world. And the example that the International Space Station gives us is we need to come together as an international crew, one integrated international crew, to protect and maintain the life support systems of Spaceship Earth. And so just try and get a feel for this idea that they're one crew.
Atlantis and ISS, thanks for those inspiring words. Thank you for honoring the thousands of people that have been a part of the Space Shuttle program over the years. And we look forward, as you do, to the day when that flag will return to Earth with a U.S. crew and then move on beyond our low Earth orbit. Thanks very much.
So I want to jump back in just for a minute because there's one more piece of interesting coincidence there. So that's Megan MacArthur, who is another classmate of mine in my astronaut class. And she's married to Bob Behnken, who is also both of our classmates in the astronaut group. And Bob flew with Doug Hurley when they captured the flag on the SpaceX mission. So, 10 years ago, we didn't obviously realize that any of this would happen, but I just think it's a pretty neat coincidence. So we'll listen to the rest.
Hey, great words, Megan. And now back to what we continue to be a more traditional farewell ceremony. I'd like to thank the commander of the International Space Station, Andrei Borisenko, for your hospitality. You've been absolutely fantastic to us. You and your crew have demonstrated not only ISS hospitality, but you've demonstrated fantastic Russian hospitality. It's been wonderful to be here with you. You have a wonderful home. You're taking fantastic care of it, and you're going to keep it looking good for generations of space travelers to come.
We have good together work, and I would say you have a good landing. Thanks for our work.
Anything else we're going to do, or
Just say I'm going to say a few words.
Oh yeah, right. Hey, just a few words overall on the mission itself. This was a little bit of a unique mission for a couple of different reasons. First of all, we had kind of an abbreviated crew. We had 4 shuttle crew coming up, joining 6 space station crew. I think in this particular instance, it forced us all to work as a very tight team from the very beginning. We had a lot of help from our station counterparts, Sasha and Andrei, Sergey. The very first day that we were docked, they showed up in the MPLM to put me to work. They were absolutely wonderful. They were great sports and took care of actually stowing an awful lot of our cargo for us. We emptied the MPLM finally today, and just a short while ago put it back in the shuttle's payload bay, hopefully with everything that should be on there, and if not, what's remaining is going to go through this hatch in just a moment. But to the Expedition 28 crew, again, thank you very much for your hospitality on behalf of the 135 crew.
So I just want to jump in again for a second and just kind of set the stage for what's going to come next. But as you saw there, hopefully you got the impression that we're one crew. And I just want to pop up a couple of comments. Here's one from Carol. Are those 15 nations working together on other space-related programs? The answer is yes, but I think we could be doing more together. I know that the Russians and the Chinese have talked about building an outpost on the moon. My personal opinion is that we should all be doing that together as one single unified international partnership. To do that, I think the benefits are enormous to do that. It's peace building. It's just the very fact that there's different engineering approaches to solving technical problems makes anything that we would build more resilient because of those different approaches. And we've seen that in the space station program over and over again, where it provides redundancy. It provides, what affects one nation's systems doesn't affect the other nation's systems. We have each other's back. That played out really obviously during the Columbia disaster, where the Russians basically carried the load for a number of years and were the only way for U.S. astronauts to get to the space station. Actually, when Atlantis landed on this mission, the only way we could get to the space station for the next number of years was through the Russians. And so I think it's the way to go, especially when you're talking about limited budgets and things like that. From Luana, there are so many ways to experience the beauty, awe, and wonder of our Earth, but your unique perspective is a gift to us. Thank you. I appreciate that, Luana. And you are absolutely right. You know, I have this book coming out, and I talk about the awe and wonder of our planet and what it means for our future and how we can use that to overcome divisiveness and our polarization. And I think it's a path to building a future that we would all want to be a part of. But everything I say in those 416 pages, I guess, you don't have to go to space to realize any of that. And so I think that's really important. So I'm gonna put the video back on because I'm gonna say a few words, and then we're gonna say goodbye. But I mean, I actually get a little choked up when I watch this video because it was a bittersweet moment. You know, we didn't know how long it was going to be before we could get back to the space station. We didn't know what the future held. You know, at the moment, all we knew for sure was that the space shuttle program was ending. And this was it. This was the last time crew members were going to float through that hatch onto a space shuttle. And we were we were left up there on the space station all lonely and sad about that, but also hopeful for what might come. And I think it's all coming to fruition now.
Well, thanks, Fergie. It's been an honor having you guys on board. It's been great having you guys on board. It's great being a part of this really important and historic mission. And we want to just thank you guys so much for leaving the space station in a posture for continued utilization, continued use for the rest of the decade. It's been really great. And you know, I'd like to thank Doug for all your work on the transfer and the robotics. It was just amazing. And where's Rex? Rex, thank you for all your leadership and your dedication and hard work on the spacewalk. You and the EVA team on the ground really made that a big success. And Fergie, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for bringing the guys here. But of all your many accomplishments that you did on this mission, for us, from our perspective, the most important thing you did was bring Sandy here. Sandy, we cannot thank you enough for always keeping the big picture in mind, always keeping what life is going to be like after you guys leave. You were just absolutely amazing. We just cannot thank you enough for everything that you've done for us. And you know, we don't even realize it yet, but in a couple of weeks, we're going to be going, wow, I'm glad Sandy was here. And we tried to trade Mike for Sandy, but Fergie wouldn't take us up on the deal. But Fergie, thank you and your crew so much. Like I said, you really left it in a good position. So on behalf of the Expedition 28 crew, the entire ISS program, we'd like to thank you, your crew, and the entire STS-135 team for leaving the station ready to go for the rest of the decade. So thank you very much.
All right, it's our honor. All right.
All right, so we'll keep this playing in the background as we're saying goodbye. And I don't know if you could read it in our faces, but we are pretty sad here.
Very good. Sasha!
But we wanted to highlight Sandy because she really did an incredible job, and it was a tough job being on that last mission.
Sergey, you're going to send me an address, right?
Good to see you. Good to see you. Take care.
Yes, I will have a safe landing.
This is 10 years ago, but it feels like yesterday.
Good to see you. You take care. Okay?
Thank you. I think we will meet in California.
Oh, yes. Thanks,
Great job. Whenever there is a job, you're there right on time. Hey, man, crew members, great. Awesome.
Great, we finally got the flight in a way we never would have guessed.
When all the hugs are over, all that's left is going through the hatch and closing
We
it.
got everything on the right side. We got our cameras. We got the log. We're going to fill the log out. We're going to get it back to you.
You got to make sure that everybody's on the right side of the hatch when you close it. Otherwise, we get in a lot of trouble.
We're going to get his thumb drive, and we're going to just pass it to you when change your thumb drive for a ship's log. All right. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
See you guys. Rexy?
Okay. Good luck.
Make sure she
All right.
Oh, bummer.
Arrivederci. Sayonara.
Grab your feet. Make her stay.
Be good. Ron will see you in about 7 weeks, man.
See you at Thanksgiving.
Good job.
See you at Thanksgiving, buddy. Don't forget us up here. Enjoy all the fun.
Now you're going to get an email very shortly from me. Oh, give me the log right there.
And just like that, the last docked mission of a U.S. space shuttle ends. And so, yeah, like I said, that was a very bittersweet moment. But everything that we said there came true. that we are opening up a new chapter, a chapter that will see astronauts leave low Earth orbit and return to the moon, this time to stay. We're going to see the first woman set foot on the surface of the moon. We're going to build that transportation infrastructure between the Earth and the moon. We just saw yesterday the launch of Richard Branson and Virgin Galactic on their flight. So commercial space tourism is on its way and about to start in earnest to fly people. And so I think more people are going to have that opportunity to see our planet from the vantage point of space. And I think the more people that have that opportunity, the better off we're all going to be on the planet, because I think it really is transformative. So we've had a lot of comments come in. Let me pop a few up. Here's one from my incredible editor, Cheryl Ross. Hey, Cheryl, Floating in Darkness, A Journey of Evolution. So wonderful to see the hardcover released today. Congratulations. Congratulations to you too. I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you for that. And so a couple of shameless plugs here. Yes, it is the release today. And if you're interested in getting a copy, the most inexpensive place to do that is on floatingindarkness.com. It is less of a price than anything else, and they're autographed books too. In addition, if you use this code Spacewalk, you'll get an additional 20% off of that. And so I'm bringing that up because I really do think that the messages in the book are messages that the world needs to hear right now. And I hope that video gave you a sense of the camaraderie, of the unity that exists when we're doing this amazing thing in space. And there's what fills me with a sense of sadness and injustice is why we can't do that on the ground. I mean, it really is one unified crew. And, it's funny, people ask me, in my 6 months in space, were there times where we talked about politics or argued about politics? And I can honestly say, I don't remember a single conversation in my entire time in space about politics. It's not because it was off limits or taboo. It's because it was irrelevant. That's what those people down there do. Those are those silly problems that they think are so important down there that they're fighting and quarreling over. And so we are living through very divisive, polarizing times right now. That is hampering our ability to solve the problems and challenges facing us. We're shooting ourselves in the foot. We're tying our hands behind our back. Whatever cliche you want to use for that, it is so obvious. We look ridiculous from space. And part of the messages in the book is to get that word out. And I'll ask a favor, another shameless plug. You're all watching this on YouTube. Last time I checked, I have 914 subscribers on YouTube. If I can get to 1,000 subscribers, it unlocks some tools which will enable us to get the message of Floating in Darkness out to more people. And so if you have the opportunity, click on the subscribe button, and that would be great. So let me go back and thanks for all the comments and questions. I want to go back and get some more. Here's one from Myron's Corner, and wishing you much success with the books. Thank you, sir, and thank you for the wonderful video that you placed. If you want to put in the comments your website or your YouTube channel where people can watch your great videos, and I appreciate all that you're doing for the world, all the light that you bring into the world and beauty that you bring into the world through your art. So thank you for that. Here's one from Mason. What gives you the most hope for the future of international space programs and international cooperation that's going on right now? Wow, that's a great question, because like I said, we are living in really divisive times, and the part of the reason we are is because we're all in these we've all been put in these little boxes with echo chamber walls, and we're all hearing what the big algorithm in the sky thinks that we want to hear, and so it just keeps reinforcing this polarization and reinforcing this divisiveness. And so that's a challenge that we're going to have to overcome. And I think it's incumbent on us on an individual basis to overcome that. The first step to overcoming the problem is to realize that there is a problem, to realize that you are being manipulated. You're being manipulated by the news channels, you're being manipulated by your Facebook feeds, you're being manipulated by everything because of the algorithms that are trying to feed you, the commercial algorithms that have a commercial motive to feed you what it thinks you need. And so the first step is to realize that's happening, and don't believe everything you hear that comes in your feed. I know that we can't all fact check everything. It'd be impossible to fact check all the things that come across our feed, but fact check whatever you can. But if you're going to share something, if you're going to post something, if you're going to make, put a blog post out or whatever it is you're going to do, then you have the responsibility to fact check and make sure that you're just not blindly sharing something from someone else. So if more and more people do that, I think that gives me hope. But I think a bigger part of the equation is I think more and more people are realizing that they're not just individuals; they're part of something bigger. And there's a blossoming unity, I think, that is taking hold on this planet. And I am really optimistic about what that's going to lead to. And I think, and I might be, you could classify me as an optimist, if you will, but I think all of this divisiveness, all of this polarization, all hyper nationalism, and all these trends that we're seeing that appear so dark are death throes of the old way. I think it's the old way clinging on to try and hold on for the last gasps before a new age ushers in that has much greater unity. And one of the reasons why a lot of people are more pessimistic than me is because all of these news feeds, all these news channels, they make money on showing you what's bad. That's what sells is all this bad news. It's very, very rare to see good news being reported, even though there's tons of that. Let's see. Let's put this up from Jeff. The most important accomplishment of space exploration is the Earthrise photo. Before a permanent moon base, we need to ensure a permanent human presence on this precious planet we are desecrating. Couldn't agree with you more on both counts. I do think that the most important accomplishment of space exploration is the Earthrise photo. And why I believe that is because that was the first moment in history where we as a species saw the entire planet hanging in the blackness of space. And we were exposed to the truth, to the reality that what we really are is one people traveling on one planet towards one shared future. We have a common origin, and we have a shared future, for better or worse. What was really clear in the image of Earthrise was that each and every one of us is riding through the universe together on this spaceship that we call Earth, that we're all interconnected, that we're all interdependent, and that we're all family. And I really think that was an inflection point. It was an evolutionary phase shift where humanity was provided the opportunity to transcend our humble beginnings and ascend to incomprehensible heights, both figuratively and literally. And I think that was a monumental event. I have to realize that event, which occurred on the mission of Apollo 8, occurred at the end of 1968. And 1968 was a year that was filled with much strife in the United States and most of the world. There was massive unrest in the streets. There was the Vietnam War was raging and all the protests around that. There were political assassinations. But for a brief moment there in 1968, the world rallied around that image of Earthrise. People from all over the world, even in the Soviet Union, a nation that was locked in a space race with the U.S. and an arms race and a Cold War with the West, proclaimed this a monumental achievement for all of humanity. So for a brief moment, the Earth was one. But I think for the most part, the significance and the meaning of that image of Earthrise has been all but forgotten. But we can relive that, and we could make it real again, and we need to. The other part of the question was what we're doing to this planet, and so I am a very strong proponent, as you probably imagine, of space exploration. But it's not space exploration where we go colonize the moon or Mars or some other planet to abandon ship. to leave the Earth, to become refugees, on Mars. We need to be ambassadors of a thriving planet wherever we go in the solar system and beyond. And we can't even think about terraforming another planet if we can't even control the temperature of our own planet by a couple of degrees. And so we do need to follow the lead of the International Space Station and come together as an international community to make sure that our home, our planet, stays a vibrant home for all. And so we've got a lot of challenges to overcome, and we're not going to be able to overcome any of them if we don't figure out how to set aside our differences and get together. We're all part of something bigger, one planet, one crew. Absolutely. So keep those comments and questions going. Let's see. I want to share, I've got a copy of the book right here. Yours won't come with this little piece of paper in it. But I do want to share, I do want to read a passage because it relates to what we're celebrating today. And this is, there's a scene that I describe in the book, which is the last spacewalk and the significance of that. And so if you don't mind, I'll read that for a second. So I say, and this is, so the scene is Mike Fossum and I are on the spacewalk, the last spacewalk of the shuttle era. And in the book is this cool picture. I don't know if you'll be able to see it there. Whoops. So sorry, that didn't work as well as I hope. So I've made my way down the port edge of the bay, that's the payload bay, and have climbed up the docking adapter between the shuttle and the ISS. I grab a handrail on the space station with my left hand, while my right hand still has a hold on a handrail on the shuttle. As I'm about to leave the shuttle, straddling the space between these two magnificent spacecraft, it dawns on me that no one will ever do this again. When I release hold on the shuttle's handrail, that will mark the last time a human was in the payload bay of a shuttle in space, because the space shuttle program is coming to an end. I stop for a moment and let that thought sink in. This moment is too monumental to let go unacknowledged. I take a few moments to send down some words down to Mission Control, recognizing the closing of this chapter of the U.S. space exploration, and thanking the thousands upon thousands of dedicated people who have worked on the space shuttle over the life of the program. With that, I get back to work and start to scale up the ISS to my next high-altitude work site. And so that I think really, is bittersweet for me, thinking about that moment where I realized when I let go of this handrail, no one will ever do this again. And it was sad. I mean, the space shuttle was an incredible machine. It was the most capable, most versatile spacecraft ever built. And it could do everything from deploy satellites to retrieve and repair satellites to build the International Space Station. The list goes on and on. So it was an incredible accomplishment, and we all miss it. But again, it enabled the opening of this new chapter. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit because I want to share this with you too. This is describing the end of the spacewalk. Mike and I have been outside for over 6 hours. We have completed all our tasks. I have just put the last of our tools and supplies in the airlock, which I am now inside. All that's left is for Mike to ingress into the airlock, close the hatch, and we can mark this one done. Ronnie, why don't you come back out here for a moment, radios Mike. What's up, Mike, I ask. Come on out, you'll see. I'm exhausted, and to tell you the truth, I was happy to be back inside, even if we're still in a vacuum. As I exit the airlock, I see Mike's smiling face through the clear visor. Behind him is a thin, glowing blue line. We're approaching orbital sunrise. Without saying a word, I know exactly what Mike is thinking. Now I'm thinking the same thing. This is probably the last time either of us will be out on a spacewalk. We've accomplished everything we set out to do today, and now we're going to savor these last few moments. We watch in awestruck silence as our orbiting home flies out from behind the shadow of Earth. Mike and I hang from the airlock with the newly awakened Earth below our feet. As the indescribable beauty of this particular one of the 16 new days we will experience today blossoms into radiant glory, I thank God for all he has created. I thank him for bringing me to this moment. and I thank all of those fellow crewmates on Spaceship Earth that make it possible. Last, with just a glance, I thank Mike for dragging me back out here. I pat him on the shoulder of his spacesuit and head back into the airlock. He follows me in and closes the hatch, ending the last spacewalk of the Space Shuttle era. And so that, again, as you can imagine, was bittersweet. And spacewalks can be very grueling. They're very long. They're very physically demanding and physically fatiguing. But there are moments like that where you could just stop and take it all in, or attempt to take it all in, because it really is an overwhelming experience. I can't imagine a more overwhelming experience than being out in the vacuum of space with your body traveling at 5 miles a second, with the Earth, slowly spinning below you. And so that's if you look down at the Earth. If you look in the opposite direction, the entire universe unfolds once your eyes adjust on the dark side of the orbit, and you see all that. I'm gonna open it up for some last comments, last questions. I also, we talked about how you could purchase the book. You could also win a free copy of the book, and so there's actually 2 giveaways going on right now. One is on Goodreads.com, and that one is going on for about another 7 hours. And there's 5 hardback copies being given away. And then also at floatingindarkness.com/giveaway, I'm going to give away 6 copies there too. And it's all free to enter. So another opportunity to do that. So Mason says, can't wait to read the book. Thanks. I hope you like it. It's, it should be fun. It's all about dogfights and space flights and spacewalks and seafloor living, but it serves as an allegory for the evolution of society. And I have a closing video that'll kind of hint at that a little bit, but not only where we've been, but where we need to go. And it talks about a path to overcome our divisiveness. It talks about a path to overcome our polarization. It talks about a path, how we can all come together and start fixing these things that are broken on our planet. It talks about a way for us to not look so ridiculous from space. And it talks about a path to a future that we would all want to be a part of, a positive, restorative future. If you do read it, and hope that you do, I would absolutely love to hear what you think about it, and to see if the messages resonate with you. So this is from Jeff. Thank you. I appreciate that. One of the reasons why I do all this is because I did come back from space with a call to action. I found my experience in space to be very transformative. I felt that I was given a glimpse into the true reality of our world, the true interconnected, interdependent reality, and maybe to go back to that discussion about Earthrise and the Apollo 8 mission is, exactly 1 year before the Apollo 8 astronauts were hurtling through space on their way to the moon. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave a sermon, a Christmas sermon on peace. And I think he prophetically gave words to what Earthrise evoked. And, I talked about there being, assassinations in 1968. Unfortunately, one of those assassinations was Dr. Martin Luther King. But he said that we're not going to have peace on Earth until we recognize the basic fact of the interrelated structure of all reality. And if that doesn't sum up the overview effect or the orbital perspective, I don't know what does. And obviously, Dr. King never went to space, but that sums up what I'm trying to say when I talk about the unifying view of our planet, the interrelated structure of all reality, that whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Again, those are in Dr. King's words. And so what that means is, to me, is that everything we do, every word, action, thought, deed, every moment of every day, no matter how small or how big, ripples out and affects everything else. Nothing happens in a vacuum. I think that's what we need to understand. And you know, when we understand that, we look at legacy from a different point of view. And I talk about this in the book too. You know, we're all taught that, you know, yeah, you got to leave your mark in this world. You gotta, you know, let people know that you were here, you know, and do all that kind of stuff. But when we look at legacy from the orbital perspective, legacy, as we commonly refer to it, kind of blurs into insignificance, because every great deed, every great statesman, every great athlete, every great movie star, every great poet, every great artist will eventually be reduced to at most a historical footnote. And even every physical thing that we create, every great cathedral and pyramid will eventually be reduced to dust. And so leaving a legacy from that point of view is not going to be lasting. It's not going to survive the passage of time. When time works its equalizing magic, it's not going to sustain. But there's another legacy we could use, a legacy that I call from the orbital perspective, where we realize that every deed, action, word, you know, that happens every day ripples out and affects everything else. And one of the tools that I use to describe this is to imagine that a giant asteroid is hurtling towards Earth, and it's big enough that if it hits the Earth, it will destroy all life on Earth. Every living thing on the planet will become extinct. If we knew about this early enough, we wouldn't have to send Bruce Willis and a team of hero astronauts to blow it to smithereens. We could send a small spacecraft, and with the force equivalent to the weight of a feather, just give that asteroid a little nudge. And that little nudge over the course of its entire journey to Earth could result in hundreds or thousands of miles of mist distance or more. And so all we need to do every night when we put our head on our pillow is think, did I make more positive nudges or negative nudges today? Because where our world will be 100,000 years from now and where it would have been if you had not lived are vastly different. And so what that means is we are incredibly more powerful than we could ever imagine. And I think, you know, a lot of people are hesitant to try and make a change in the world, to try and improve the world, because they think, what can I do? What could one person possibly do to over the problems and the challenges are so big? And the reason why we think that is we don't realize how powerful we are. We don't realize how much of an impact that we have in every decision we make and everything in every case. All right, I'm going to throw up some more comments. All right, here's from Brian Turner. From being my flight lead in combat to leading us on this grand mission to unite the world, I thank you for your continued leadership. Thank you, Brian. And thank you for all that you've done and all the light that you've brought into the world. And Brian is an incredible photographer, and you should check out his work. And if you don't mind, throw your website in the comments or where people could see your art, because that's again, every little bit of beauty that goes into the world ripples out and makes everything more beautiful. Okay, I think we're gonna start to wrap this up. I'm going to close with a video, and it's a video narration, another video narration. It's actually the narration of the introduction of the book. Because the subtitle is A Journey of Evolution, Floating in Darkness, A Journey of Evolution. And so I want to give a little nod to what I mean by that, and why the book serves as an allegory for the evolution of society. And again, I'm gonna say goodbye now and let the video play. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Again, if you're able to, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you do read the book, I would love to hear what you think about it. And I'd love for you to tell everybody else what you think about it too on all the review sites. If you can do that, it's an exciting day for me to launch this, because it has been a labor of love. I've actually started writing it in 1991. So it's an exciting day to finally get this out into the world. And there's enter to win to those giveaways for a chance to win some of those books. And again, thank you for being on this journey with us, this journey of evolution. And there's going to be a lot of content coming out around the messages of the book. A lot of that will be on YouTube. We'll put it out. So stay tuned. It's going to be an exciting journey. And with that, I'm gonna say goodbye and thank you. The origin story of my evolution began in the embryonic ocean of my mother's womb. 9 months later, I left the familiarity of this maternal ocean for solid ground. 19 years later, I extended my life into the ocean of air blanketing our planet. 27 years later, I climbed above the ocean of air, and my life was elevated into space. Humanity's origin story begins in the prehistoric ocean of Mother Earth. 4 billion years later, life was compelled to claw itself out of the familiarity of the ocean for solid ground. Life left the relative ease of the ocean for the promise of something better, fighting the crushing gravitational pull of the planet the whole way. The journey out of the ocean led to new adaptations, including the arrival of humans. 400 million years after life transcended the oceans, humanity extended itself into the ocean of air blanketing our planet. 58 years later, humanity elevated itself above the ocean of air and into space. Detaching from the planet enabled us to look back and see what we have always been: one single human family with a common origin and a shared future. On May 31st, 2008, my story intersected with humanity's origin story when I became the 478th person to leave the planet. This intersection coincided with humanity and all life on Earth, facing a crisis that threatens the very survival of life here. A crisis that humans must overcome. A crisis that requires a giant leap in humanity's evolutionary process. A life or death crisis that humanity can only solve by transcending individual and collective ego and embracing the true nature of its interdependence with every living thing on the planet and the planet itself. The crisis? We must evolve, see, understand, and act on the fact that we are all part of one human family, or we will perish. On the news today, you will not see many, if any, stories that illustrate humanity's evolution towards a more unified existence. Instead, the news bombards us with examples pointing to humanity's de-evolution to more primitive forms. It shows rampant divisiveness fracturing our species along national, parochial, partisan, racial, and religious lines. The news doesn't reflect the complete reality of the story. An awakening consciousness, a blossoming unity, could help us overcome the divisive darkness. A darkness that surrounds us because we, like the prisoners in the allegory of Greek philosopher Plato's cave, are blind. The prisoners in Plato's cave lived their entire lives chained inside of it, facing a wall. They could see only the shadows cast upon the wall, nothing more. Sounds that emanated from behind them echoed off the walls, leading them to believe that the shadows were making these sounds. They believed in the shadows because they had never seen anything else. They knew no better life, so they did not desire to leave the cave. One day, one of the prisoners broke free of his chains and found another world where his eyes slowly adjusted, and he discovered that reality was not as he thought. He then realized that the shadows he had seen his whole life were mere projections of this outside world, which was superior in every way to his old home. With this new knowledge, he sympathized with those still trapped in the cave and desired to bring them out of it and into the light of 16 sunrises illuminating an awe, wonder, and miracle-filled world. This book is that true story.